I've been a commercial real estate investor for over 10 years. If you're interested in what I would do differently, if I were to go all the way back to the beginning and how I would invest from the start, watch this video. Ron from Ronald Ready Law, and if you subscribe to this channel, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to another episode on commercial real estate investing. And this is a really interesting video for me because it's something that I think about a lot. And that is, what would I do differently if I were to go back and find my early self and give them just this golden advice about how to start over? The general outline is basically I would buy a cash flowing asset as quickly as possible, something that can be scaled and doesn't require a lot of money, but it requires a lot of sacrifice. And I'll go into that a little bit more detail, but I'm going to walk through those early years, how to buy a initial property, how to get it cash flowing, and then how to pivot from there. Because for me, if the end goal is always to own as much real estate as possible, to spend as less time needed managing those properties, commercial is always the end goal. And for me, I think I was no different, but I had a lot of fears about dipping my toes into commercial, how to write these 7-figure checks and that sort of thing. So in this video, I'm going to make a couple of assumptions, all right? And in the beginning, it's very, very important that you clear most of your debt. And when I say most of your debt, I'm going to be talking about high interest stuff. You've got to manage those high cost debts and pay them off as quickly as possible. Now, if you have some, I don't know what it is now, like some federal student loans that are at the 3 or 4 or 5% range, those are pretty low cost. And I think that your capital is better spent elsewhere instead of going to pay those off. If you have things that are above 10%, you've got to aggressively pay those down. You've got to make enough money in your day job to be able to save a fair amount of money. And again, just ballparks, I think, you should be working at your job to make 100 grand, 6 figures first, before you even start to think about investing. You've got to invest in yourself first. Get that job where you're making enough money so that you can save enough money, and then you can start to buy real estate. Because at the end of the day, real estate costs money, especially if you're in commercial real estate. It takes money to make money. Now, that's the kind of the assumptions. For me, I was a lawyer. I was graduating. I get it. I had a good job, but I still had a little bit of student loan debt. I needed to pay that down as quickly as possible. But when I was ready to buy my first house, I had about $60,000, $75,000 saved, and I was looking at properties up to about $300,000. The biggest thing that I would have done differently is for that first house, I would have bought the largest multifamily unit that I could live in, the largest multifamily that I could be approved for. And I think back then, it probably would have been like an 8 or 10 or maybe 12 unit. All I needed was one vacancy and I would live in that unit, okay? I'm talking, this is my mid-20s, maybe late 20s. I'm single, I have no kids, no wife. And it really comes down to that question, do you value comfort over making money? And it's as simple as that, and I'll admit that back then I was guilty of the former. I just wanted comfort. I ended up buying a townhouse in probably an A-plus location, which was tons of fun, total walkable neighborhood, appreciated well, but it was just that. It was a single townhome. The income potential was limited. The options were limited. The finish wasn't brand new construction, so you could have done some renovation, but it didn't really drive rental increases. And it was just one unit, so I was very limited in the amount of cash that I could really generate on a monthly basis. Now, if I had put my vanity and my ego aside and bought a 8-unit apartment in a slightly not as popular area of town, I would have been able to live in the worst unit and renovate that unit while I live in it. And what I mean is, even if you're not particularly handy, YouTube is incredible. You can basically Google any type of household replacement or repaint something, how to refinish doors. I would say to you, you can do it. If you're able to find this video right now, smash the like button, by the way. you're able to learn how to do this type of repairs. Now, for sure, you've got to still be saving money for the big ticket repairs. So I'm talking plumbing, electrical, anything that you need a license. I don't expect you to be crawling on the roof, laying down new shingles. But a lot of renovation that's cosmetic. We're talking flooring, walls, fixtures, sinks, all of those types of replacements can be done by the homeowner, the multifamily owner, while living in the unit. And I get it. You got to live in some dust. You got to live in some inconveniences. Maybe your one of your bathrooms is going to be down. But the point is, there's a lot of work. And by you living in the unit, you essentially live rent-free on day one. And that's huge. You should be making positive monthly cash flow and renting your unit for free from yourself, essentially. But that is a key distinction in that it allows you to have a longer time frame to complete your renovations. All right, everybody that's doing multifamily value add now, you've got cost of capital, you have investors who want return, you've got COVID, supply shortages, and everybody's rush. You've got to compress all of these renovations into a very short time period because time is money. And I get it, but that creates artificial pressure on turning around a unit. If this is your home, if this is your unit where you live, I don't care if it takes you 3 months to turn that unit or if it takes you 13 months. It doesn't matter because you're living for free, you're working your job, and whatever you have time for is the appropriate speed at which you'll renovate this unit, okay? Now, once you've completely finished the renovation, you've made it pretty and it's all set, you can now move to the second worst unit in the complex and either don't renew that tenant or work something out with them when they move out. But now you should release your old unit for a higher price. Now, it's very easy to move within the same building. You're at the same address. Your mail is there. You're a direct on-site property manager that doesn't cost any money. You're not paying a third-party property manager. And so all of these cost savings are doing two things for you. They're saving cash, but the second thing is it's teaching you. And when you're in your 20s and you're in your late 20s or maybe early 30s, you need to be learning. You need to be learning about this industry, about investment, about tenants, which vendors to use. And that is why living on site next to your tenants for however long it takes is the invaluable tool. And what you're going to do is keep moving around to the worst units as those leases roll over, and you're going to be renovating them to the same standard with your own blood, sweat, and tears, your own dollars. And after however long it takes, 1 year, 2 years, I don't know, you have bounced around to all 8 units and you've fixed up every single one. You have increased your NOI probably by double, and you have this tremendous cash flowing asset that you say, okay, great. My job here is done. I can move, I can even rent another apartment or I could buy another house, and this multifamily unit becomes your home base. You will use that cash flow to either fund new investments or you use that cash flow to pay your mortgage on a single family detached house that is essentially paid for from all of your blood, sweat, and tears. That's the thing that I really think about I could have done differently, because this little multifamily becomes your home base and nobody can ever take that away from you. You have fixed it up, you have done the landscaping yourself, you have painted everything, power washed, every nook and cranny, all the tenants, you've placed them, you've vetted them. And that's really important. I think that cash flow, whether it's $3,000 a month or $7,500 a month, you can't replace that. And it gives you just this comfort that is your never sell asset. You have no partners, you have no other artificial constraints on it, and you just hold it. And that cash flow is critical to always match inflation. You've owned it for a long time, so that's going to keep your property taxes down. All of these things are a great thing to build while you're in your early 20s or starting off. Now, thereafter, for your second asset, I would have that decision. Do I like multifamily? Because while multifamily is a great place to start, I don't think that it's always the best place for people to end up. And what I would do, again, is you have this cash flow, you're still working your W-2 job. You're going to need that to qualify for loans in the future. But you've got to do a survey of other asset classes. And again, if you're itching to pull the trigger and to make an investment, it's harder to have more patience if you have capital that's burning a hole in your pocket. Once you've done one full investment and you've gotten that itch out of the way, you can be a much more patient investor. And that is key, because when you're in your 20s and your early 30s, you want to go out, conquer the world, you want to do big things. Patience is in short supply. And even if you have some of the money, even if you have the loan, you've got to do a little bit of a survey and figure out what asset class do you want to make your money in? What do you love that you want to keep investing in for the next 30 years? And so for me, I did this process, but I didn't do it early enough, because what I did was I started building SFR portfolio onesie twosies, at buying one or two properties or houses a year, until I decided I don't like this management. This was not a asset class that I wanted to scale. I wanted to hire my own staff for. I just didn't love managing the problems of single family rental. I wanted longer leases. I wanted, minimize my exposure to property tax and operating expense increases. And I was okay with leaving some money on the table as long as it meant that I could scale without headache. And so what you should do is look at self-storage. You should look at industrial. You should look at office. I mean, office is a great opportunity if you're willing to commit and to be an expert in a very small market office. You could retail. Retail is still very popular right now. They haven't been building a lot of new. But it is an incredible amount of dedication and focus to owning and understanding retail asset classes, because of the turnover, because of the market rates, because of TI. You have this time value of money that's really important to understand. But at the end of the day, you should do a survey before you make your next investment. And then my advice after you make that decision is to focus so tightly, and do not even look at OMs, do not even look at other people's deals that are outside this asset class. And that type of laser focus, again, something that I missed as I kind of bounced around and I looked at like Class B, light industrial. I looked at, for a while I was really into like refrigerated storage, but I realized I really don't have the capital. I certainly didn't have the expertise, but the cost of some of those refrigerated buildings is just astronomical if you buy a bad building with the units going out. But I spent a lot of time looking at those and trying to underwrite those deals and trying to understand and learn more about it. That's okay, but it really was a waste of time instead of just focusing on one single market and just dominating and knowing every player in that market. And then thereafter, I feel like it's really important to build your identity. Who are you as an investor? What is your buy box? And can you succinctly describe it to somebody who's in the industry? To be fair, they need to know what's going on. But if you can describe it to them in 30 seconds, exactly who you are, what you're looking for, and where you want to go, that is an incredible realization. And the sooner that you can do that, and the sooner you can build a little bit of a track record of proving that out, your real estate investment trajectory has no bounds. And so that's it. I feel like I've had a relatively short period. I'm in my late 30s, not quite 40, but almost there. And so I still feel like I have a long ways to go, but I find these exercises, I do these videos almost for me as much as everybody out there, but I hope somebody gets some value from it. Because looking back, these are the things that I wish I would have done. And I'm sure that if I'm 50, looking back when I'm 40, what I would have done, probably continue to make big bets. I've got 2 kids. I have a wife. We've got the mortgage and no car payments or anything. But other than the mortgage, I don't have a lot. I guess my employees' payroll. Still probably to take bets because I'm young and I feel a certain amount of fear now that I'm established and I've got kids and mouths to feed, college to pay for. But my 50-year-old self would probably tell my younger self, you're still young, still take big swings, even if you miss, it's worth it to try to get a 10-bagger or to, 5x your equity. Those are the types of big hits when you're 40 give you a lot of investment capital that you can deploy more judiciously in your 50s. So that's it for this video of investment, what I would have done differently. Again, smash that like button if you found it useful. Drop a comment if you have any questions, and we'll see you next time.